Welcome to Eat-ology video number 4. What we're going to talk about here is how much to eat. So just think about it for a second. What is the purpose of a meal? So when I ask audiences this question, usually the responses I get would be to energize you, to keep you alive, to keep you healthy, to entertain you. There's many infinite number of reasons to eat, right? But think of it this way. If you think of a meal, the purpose of a meal rather, as sustaining you until the next meal. So the purpose of a meal is to last and fast until the next meal, right? So if you wake up in the morning and the next time you're going to get a chance to eat would be 12 noon, the purpose of that meal is going to be to get you to 12 noon. The purpose of the breakfast, for example, would be to get you, if you woke up and you had your tummy talk, to get you to 12 noon. And at 12 noon when you eat, the purpose of that meal is to get you to 6 p.m. If you think of it this way, it's completely different than, it's just a different mindset and attitude about food, philosophy about food, that'll translate into results. Because what most people tend to do is when they're sitting with their meal, it almost appears that their objective is to eat as much as humanly possible in that setting, in that sitting. In that one sitting, they want to eat almost the maximum amount, not the minimum amount, or not the amount required to last and fast to the next meal. Let me give you a few strategies in terms of cutting down how much you eat. I heard a quote once, a beautiful quote that says, "A third of what you eat you could live off, and the other 2/3 is for others to live off of you." So the fashion industry, to be able to, are living off of you in terms of you upgrading and upsizing your clothes. Okay, the health community is, now having to take care of you. You see what I'm saying? So you're not really an empowered person if you're doing that. So here's what you want to consider doing. One, when you're sitting down and you're having your meal, so you know how often you eat now because you know your meal number, right? You know that you eat, let's say, twice a day, 7 hours apart, 3 times a day, whatever hours apart, right? Okay, so what you do is you sit down and you look at your plate, and either before you fill your plate, you remove a third. This is called Formula 33. You remove a third of what you normally would have, and you consume that meal. Now, if you still last and fast till your next meal, so if your meal number doesn't change, so let's say your 10 a.m. meal, okay, normally gets you to 5 p.m. If that doesn't change, then that 1/3 is excess and unnecessary. So if you just shaved off that many calories and that much food, that wasn't necessary because you're still lasting and fasting until your second meal. All right? Now once you've done that, the next time you consume, you try removing another third. Again, seeing if you can last and fast to your next meal and not get hungry sooner. If you do, you're removing too much. You have to keep playing with that until you figure out what is the fat, what is the excess, not necessarily the fat, proteins, fats, and carbs, but what is the excess or unnecessary amount of food that you can cut out that'll help you get to the next meal. Okay? Another approach to help you reduce the amount of food at a particular sitting is to consider the water sandwich. Now the water sandwich involves this. Before you sit down and eat, you drink a glass of water, full glass of water. Then during your meal, you drink another glass of water, sipping at it between bites or after bites, okay? Then when you feel like you are done, and we'll talk about what done really means, have another glass of water. So what you're basically doing is you're sandwiching your meal between water drinking sessions. So what you'll find is that'll typically reduce the amount of solid food that you're consuming as well. Okay? If you don't like to drink while eating, then just simply have a glass of water before and a glass of water after. That's the water sandwich. How do you know when to stop eating? So here's how most people communicate, and here's how we've been raised to communicate, and here's how it's just been structured in our past and in our cultures to communicate, okay? What we typically say would be, are you full? So I would say to you, are you full? Or you would say, yeah, I'm full. So you got to be careful with this language, because this becomes the target. So if the communication you typically use is, am I full or are you full? The target now clearly is to be full. That's when you make the decision to stop eating, when you're full. If we change the language, okay, we change the linguistics, what can happen is something incredible. So instead of asking, are you full? What we want to do is change the target to, have you had enough? See, knowing when enough's enough to last and fast the next meal is an important way to reduce the quantity of your consumption, to reduce the quantity of the food that you eat. Okay? So in this step, what we want to do is consider the purpose of a meal, reduce how much we eat at a particular meal. So formula 33, for you might be formula 50, might be formula 25, whatever. But the point is, keep reducing until you see it's affecting your meal number. The water sandwich is another way to hydrate before consuming, so you end up consuming less, okay, as well as consuming during and after the meal, so that you feel afterwards that you've had enough. And of course, changing the mindset of eating and to shift from being full to knowing when enough's enough. The next video, we're going to talk about some interpersonal strategies that are important, because eating under the influence is a very underappreciated area in the field of nutrition and diet. So when it comes to how much to eat, you also want to look at your past and your past eating behaviors and experiences to help you moving forward. So here's what you want to consider. You want to go to a time when you overate. Maybe list the last 5 times that you overate. And for each one, what you want to consider is what the negative feedback is from your body. Now, it may vary depending on what you're eating, but typically, if you overeat, your body will give you some sort of negative feedback. Again, I'm starting to repeat myself, which is a good thing, because you're starting to get the basics. You're going to feel some sort of negative physical, negative mental, and or negative emotional feedback. And if you pay attention to the feedback that your body's given you, the next time you're sitting in front of a meal face to face at a buffet or at home with the plate full of food, not only are you going to be associating the positive aspects with that food item, but also the negative aspects. Again, this will help you gain control.